Greetings. I'm trying to do another live. Suzanne Tickemeyer. I wrote for Pathos for nearly 10 years, a column called No Longer Quivering, where I talked a lot about evangelicalism. I talked about evangelical, fundamentalist, charismatic kind of churches. And what got me to talk about those things is I was a member for nearly 20 years in one of these, and I left, and it took some time for me to have the experiences where I can look back at what I'm doing and realize I was maybe not part of a CULT, but I was definitely part of a high demand religious organization. Okay, I'm going to throw a few things out here. Hey, Queen of Sheba. If you could do the YouTube things, hit like, subscribe, click the bell notification. These are just my opinions, my considered opinions after years in this subculture, looking back in. Please don't bully or be rude to anybody I'm talking about today. I got to tell you guys, yesterday evening, I fell down a rabbit hole. Now, I know there's a really great YouTube channel by that name that I actually watch, but I fell down a rabbit hole hard. I don't know about you guys, but there are some things that I fall down and don't mean to. My husband can tell I was up until like almost 1 thinking about this. There's a guy by the name of Todd Bentley. Todd was huge where I went to church. We loved ourselves some Todd Bentley towards the end. I would go to some of the things he did. I had CDs of his that had soaking prayer music. He was huge in the soaking prayer ministry. Well, around 2008, 2009, he kind of had a fall from grace. But leading up to that, I saw a piece on him last night by Nightline, I believe it was. It was one of the 3 big channels, their investigative unit, talking about Todd Chrisley at the Florida blessing, the Florida outpouring, and about how there was no proof he ever healed anybody. He was having sex left and right with various women and stuff. So it was another hard rabbit hole to fall down and look, because I loved this guy. He was somebody that I actually admired and looked up to, who had become a Christian at 18 and spent months and months doing soaking prayer, claiming that God had healed him. Now, what is soaking prayer? A soaking prayer is, it's actually kind of meditation. I'm just going to throw that out there. It's meditation is what it boils down to. I was trained to do a soaking prayer ministry myself. I used to be a coordinator of that for a while. And the coordination and all that is what I'm actually going to talk about more than Todd Bentley and his sexual peccadillos, which apparently he's never recovered from. He refused to submit to any kind of pastoral oversight. He refused to take accountability. But I got to throw this out here. That's really common in evangelical fundamentalists, not just quiverful, but charismatic churches. These guys never want to be under any accountability. And I laughed because one of the people that was trying to put him under accountability was Bill Johnson. Bill Johnson of Bethel Redding, who himself is under no accountability. So it's kind of funny how these guys do. But the Todd Bentley thing for me and the soaking prayer thing was, it brought up a good point, a really good point about these types of churches and what you're going through. Okay, what you're going through, hey, Cheryl. With these churches like this, when you first join, they have a way of hooking you in. And I laughed last time I was in the States because I saw an episode of King of the Hill where it was called church hopping. And they showed all the bad stuff about evangelicalism and about these churches that have no oversight. They just was like boom, 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 comedic in an easy to understand way. So if you're ever going to watch King of the Hill, I would recommend looking up that particular episode. You're going to see a lot of things just dealt with very matter-of-factly. I thought it was a pretty decent one. Here's the thing. These churches get you in by love bombing. You show up and you are suddenly the most popular person on the planet. Everybody's stroking you. Everybody's saying, oh, I adore whatever it is you're involved in. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Can I help you? Let me bring you a meal. All kinds of just really intense love bombing. I struggled with that. I think it's my Catholic guilt being raised Catholic. I struggle to this day with compliments. I struggle with anybody praising me. It's just always been a struggle for me because it's always been in the back of my mind. I'm lesser, I'm this, I'm that. And if you are being love bombed, can feel really good or really bad. I had problems with it at first. I was like shying away from some of these people. But after a while, with my daughter and her ailments, it started to feel really good because of the fact that I was going through so much. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. Having a child with a chronic illness is exhausting. It is exhausting as heck. And then the next thing you know, you're having a nervous breakdown. For me, I had a terrible depression that lasted several years. It was just really, really bad. And they helped me a lot during that. But the other thing that helped was medicine and therapy, which I also got at the same time, which this church now frowns upon. Okay, so they'll love bomb you. They'll get you in there. They'll say all these wonderful things to you. They'll support you. They'll emotionally support you. They'll get you in. The second thing they do is very important. They plug you in immediately. Now, my church actually finally made rules that said you have to be a member a minimum of 6 months of good standing before you can do certain things like worship team. I went with a friend to her Evangelical church. I hated how touchy they are. Cheryl, it was a hard thing for me, and now it'd be almost impossible because my left side is tingly all the time because of the stroke. And for me to be touched is sometimes very painful. If somebody comes up on my left side and touches me, I jump out of my shoes. But yeah, I had a problem with it all the way back then before stroke damage. So I would really have a problem now. But I had a real problem with that then even. It just was not, it did not feel natural to me. And it went contrary to everything I knew about religion. I was raised part Catholic, part Episcopal. My father was Episcopal. My mother was Catholic. Hey, Tolo reading. Hi back at you from Costa Rica. I love Oregon. It's a beautiful state from everything I've seen. I've never had the chance to visit. I hope to rectify that at some point in the future. So the purpose of plugging you in is to make you feel a part of the greater thing, the bigger thing. So it's really not that bad of a thing in a lot of ways. I still dislike it when people I don't know feel the need to hug me and throw arms around me. Cheryl, I got that same problem too. It feels like it violates a boundary, a physical boundary. So that was a struggle for me too, because this was a church with a lot of huggers. And if you go to a church where hugging is their ministry, you're going to be giving them side eye when you say, no, please, please, no touchy, no touchy. So a lot of them like to do that. You can stay at our house. Open invitation. Oh, awesome. Open invitation to come here too. I tell people that all the time. I tell my friends, I have a guest house. I'll just throw you in there, which I'm painting right now. We just looked at it and I'm unhappy that the fact that one coat was not enough. It was good paint, but one coat is not going to be enough. I got to go back in there and repaint in a couple of days. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow morning. I'll just knock it out. So they do this. They get all touchy-feely, then they plug you in. The purpose of plugging you in is to make you feel part of the greater good, the greater thing they're doing. And some churches, like I said, they have rules about what you can get plugged in, but a lot of times they will put you in things like teaching children Sunday school. Hey, Celine, even though it's real important that they have people who are trained, who are screened, who all of that to work with children. A lot of places don't believe in that. They believe that is some kind of government idolatry, even though I have to say it's not. It needs to happen. But a lot of places will do this. They'll just plug you in, plug you in, plug you in. Children's ministry. I started thinking about that earlier. Do you find that some churches are racist when it comes to interracial dating as far as a black man and white woman? Celine, yes, I've seen that a lot. And it was funny because our old church, we had a church that was near us that was African-American primarily. And it was the only time I saw a lot of people ever have anything to do with somebody of a different race was twice a year when we had a joint service together. And then we had ham biscuits and potato salad and the traditional deviled eggs, church food afterwards. We had a picnic. And I enjoyed that. I got to say, but then again, I wasn't racist. I was one of these people where I grew up in the deep South. I grew up in Louisiana where lots of black people are. So for me, it was not a big thing. But for some of the people I went to church with, I knew had racist thoughts. This was huge. So if somebody had showed up, a black man dating a white woman, that might have been a problem. And we had that show up at our church here, and it was a pretty interesting thing seeing who reacted to what, but it was not as bad as it was with the old church. My church assigned me so many tasks and I was overwhelmed by it. Queen of Sheba, there's a reason they do that. The reason they do that is they want to lock you in. They don't want you thinking for yourself. So if you're doing like I was when I first got there, being a fill-in for, I was a fill-in for children's Sunday school. I worked every kind of event they had, whether it was a potluck or anything that involved setting up, decorating food. And once they discovered I had an artistic flair, I got to decorate the church for every holiday. That became my thing. And so that was more stuff I had to do. I led a home Bible study. I was on worship team. I would sometimes fill in for missionettes when they needed a leader for a class. I was involved with Way Down Workshop. I was involved with setting up for conferences. It was a lot of things. And on top of that, I was going out and doing these conferences like Todd Bentley, these healing conferences. I saw many racist people hiding out church. Yeah, well, a lot of them do. So the whole point of the task is to lock you in so you don't think and plug you in to make you feel like you're part of the greater good. So they do that with an eye towards that. Now, if you're somebody that already has questions about what's going on, you're not going to do well with that. I laughed because Hank Hill decided that he missed his buddies that he was hanging out with in the alley drinking beer more than he was getting anything from church. So he actually started a rebellion and quit doing all this stuff. Whereas his wife was kind of almost like having a nervous breakdown. She was over involved. And I see that a lot where the wife is over involved and the husband is like not quite so much. Even my husband was pretty involved at first and then started kind of backing off a little bit. Whereas me, I was whole hog. You know, if I commit, I commit. And I committed big time. And it's not to say that I didn't get anything from that, because there are some things I did that I will always be proud of that were good. Example, we held a soup kitchen one Thanksgiving Day, okay? And we did it very publicly. We're out there with our signs, with everything. Pretty awesome because we got to, Joni and I, my best friend, and we would do, on every Wednesday, we went first to the senior nutrition site and spent time with the seniors praying for them, okay? Or just hanging out with them even. And that was all kinds of enriching. I got a lot from that. The other thing we did was we would go to the soup kitchen and pray for people. And this was at a church that I'd attended for a short period of time, the Presbyterian church in town. And I got to know all of the homeless people in our area. And I enjoyed that so much. I could tell you tales from that. So our soup kitchen, we found out that the church was not going to do anything for the holidays. So we decided we would do an open air soup kitchen. We talked to a local business. They let us use their parking lot and plug into their electric. And we did it. And it was great. It was one of the most fun times I've ever had. I got to see all the homeless people I knew in Culpeper who were running around trying to figure out what they were going to do. And we had people stopped and gave us pies and bread and all kinds of things to go. So it was something that was necessary, so necessary. But the sad thing is we couldn't get pastoral support to do it ever again, which was a shame. I would have loved to have done a Christmas one too. But say la vie. So all of that stuff is designed so that you don't think much. And the people who do think a lot about it, they start to back off once they realize, hey, I'm over involved. I'm starting to fall apart. Once I joined worship team, I did back off some of my roles because it was just too much. You had to go to rehearsal every week. There was a lot of things you had to do that were part of worship team. So once that happened for me, I absolutely quit doing a lot of those things because I just didn't have the energy. And I didn't have the smarts of Hank Hill to be able to say, wait a minute, why am I having to do X, Y, and Z? Why am I having to come in and clean the church? Why am I having to house this person? Why am I having to do all this crap? And there it is. Now, somebody was talking earlier today. The reason I even thought about talking about this again is people were talking about that troll and her 2-year sojourn into rock and roll church, which is what she calls evangelical church. And I think the people that come into it with an agenda, they come in thinking, I'm going to get X, Y, and Z out of this, real things like I'm going to get money, I'm going to get respite care, I'm going to get X, Y, Z. If you come in with that kind of expectation, it's going to automatically fail. You're going to fail there, and it's going to leave you more bitter and angry than ever before. So I'm so glad you had one holiday meal. You get the other volunteers, bless people who needed help. Oh, yeah, with Cheryl, it was wonderful. I would love to do that again. I'd like to do that here. I don't know if we can do it. I may have to talk to somebody. So the thing with the volunteering in people is you can't really count on it. You can't really count on the level of what their involvement is going to be. I love my friend Joni. She was wholeheartedly involved, wholeheartedly. So, but at the same time, this person was talking about they expected respite care and money and all these different things. You can't go in with an agenda, even though I'm just going to throw this out there. A lot of people have unspoken needs and agendas of their own that they have when these things, when they join these churches. The best example I can think of that is almost everybody I knew who was a woman going to our old church, almost everybody, not everybody, had a bad marriage they were trying to change by being more submissive and quiverful. And I saw that not work out. I never saw anybody end up with a changed husband in the way they wanted. Nobody. And it just was the unspoken agenda, the unspoken need. So there you go. My husband had more sense than I did. He ran off from it before I did. He quit doing all those crazy things. And I did a lot of crazy things. One of them was the healing rooms we used to do, which was so awkward because if someone wasn't healed, we were afterwards going, oh, I've got to pray this demon off of me. It's obviously they've got a demon. They've got a spirit of whatever. And I'm looking back at that going, oh my, why did I ever say that or think that way? You know, in the Bible, God heals people. Jesus heals people. I don't know about you or I, but I am not Jesus. I'm not God. Thank you very much. So I don't think you can have the expectation it's going to happen every single time. There's so much about quote faith that is faith. You just have to, you may not see it. You may have to just believe for those things and go from there. I did get a kick out of a story that I read this week. Oh, somebody was throwing a fit about James Eric Crisp, who works at God's House of Hope as a minister, as a preacher, pastor. Here's what interests me about that story. Chris was an addict. He killed a man while he was in the throes of his addiction in 2019. Before he found Jesus and his place in life, I am seeing a couple of different creators just throwing shade at this man horribly, saying, oh, he needs to go to jail for the rest of his life. People who don't understand what addiction is like and being in the throes of that and the things that can happen and the things you'll do that are not you, they're you grappling with your addiction, driving this thing. I just have to mention this because I have to say, James Eric Crisp, you go. Admitting that you've done something like that, it takes enormous cojones, just enormous ones to fess up to what you've done. one thing I know it's pretty true about a lot of evangelical churches is most people don't ever face their quote sin or the thing they've done. He is attempting to address this and to deal with it and to take his lumps, his legal lumps. And I think that's an awesome, awesome thing. Anytime you admit, that's one thing that I will say about evangelical town that I personally struggle with, because I've been raised Catholic, where the weight of guilt is on you and you have guilt about stupid things. I still have guilt about stupid things, even when I attempt not to have guilt. So there's that. And being able to admit when you're wrong and say you're sorry, that is huge, even if it's a huge or little thing. I screw up all the time. And I know I don't hold the answers to anything in this world, but I'm a big fan of admitting and forgiving and moving on. Todd Chrisley is not making me laugh. He's given me lots to think about, because in his latest podcast, he was talking about forgiving those people you're going to struggle to forgive. And all I can say about that is there are times when you need to forgive somebody for you. And forgiveness is never about really the other person. It's always about your heart within you. And as I told Todd, if you know you can't forgive that person within yourself, just pray to God to be open about forgiving that person. I think if you pray for God to change your heart and to be open about it, he will eventually, in your time and his time. God is such a gentleman. He's not going to force you to do anything that is going to harm you. The nice thing about Europe, I can walk down the street with a cane and no one jumps in wanting to pray for me. It's assumed way too much that someone wants unsolicited prayers. Cheryl, very true. Very true in the States. I don't have that problem here. The problem I have here with my cane and struggling to walk and stuff is I have people that want to jump in and help me, not pray. And as I keep trying to explain, I need the practice of walking. I need the practice of carrying my bag or whatever. Do I do it perfectly? Hell no. But I don't need somebody grabbing my bag and grabbing my arm and helping me. I need to be allowed to do that. Now, if somebody wants to offer to help me, that's cool. Just don't assume that's what I want. So that goes back to the religious rant. But I don't have that problem with my husband's church. Nobody's ever once tried to help me with a damn thing. They're all selfish. So the whole thing with I have asked for prayer and was blessed to have that request answered. Strangers, not so much. That's exactly right, Cheryl. The thing is, we were all taught that type of ministry and soul winning not at my old church, but at Toronto, where you could pray for people to be healed. They tell you to offer it to strangers all the time, to walk up to them and grab their elbow and say, hey, can I pray for you? You got some needs? Are you hurting? People will ask if I need help. No one forces it. That's really good, Cheryl. I had an incident, I think about when it was 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago, where my husband and I were in a secondhand shop, and he was upstairs, and I could not go to him because the stairs went straight up and they had crap piled on either side. It's a secondhand store. I looked at those rickety stairs and said, no, not working. And it was super hot inside the store. So I was getting overwhelmed. What I did was I just went out to the parking lot, and the car was locked. I didn't have my purse with me. The only thing I had was my boob money. My boob money for buying crap there. So, and I went again this morning. I said, well, I had boob money. So I didn't have my purse, so I couldn't get in the new car. So I was just leaning up against the car, just waiting for my husband. Didn't think anything of it. 5-10 minutes. The ladies in the macrobiotic shop in front of where I was came out and offered to bring me a chair. I said, no, I'm perfectly fine here. And I could see my husband in the distance coming. And then they said, well, why don't you come in? We have some supplements that might help you. And that's another one. When people want to pressure you with whatever they think you need, be it yoga, kale, or whatever it is. And you're like, thanks, but no thanks. Sometimes the church does that too. You really have to be careful of some of that. So that's my disability rant from the Saturday morning disability rant. And poor James Chris. You gotta have boob money. You absolutely must have boob money. I've discovered if I put this in my wallet, it will disappear in a heartbeat. And I have to laugh because I've seen some signs in Costa Rica say, don't give me your disgusting boob money, your sweaty, disgusting boob money, which always makes me laugh real loud when I see that stuff. I put a link in the description to Tribal People Tribe because that's my new favorite channel. And they have people from these tribes in like Mongolia area, in the Himalayas, and they're trying different things. And I love this because when I start feeling grumpy about some aspect of modern life, I watch these guys trying stuff and their eyes get round and them going, oh, and I'm like, I'm living in an age of miracles that I can't even see. So I have that linked too. I know I'm talking about a lot of different weird stuff today, but this is the stuff that is just hitting me and hitting me hard today. So there is that. And yes, today's religious talk was inspired by one Catherine Paulson, because everybody was talking about her story of joining her evangelical church. And I was trying to explain to them the distinctives and what they do and how they do it. And that part of the story, almost everybody has the same experience. If you have a chronically ill child, it can be a lifesaver to join this kind of churches, because if nothing else, you know that you can drop your child off for Sunday school or for whatever they got going on, and somebody will be watching and caring for your child. And you know that they will come and get you the second something bad happens. The second something bad happens, you will hear about it. They'll come. So was my experience with that. And it was what I needed, because I wasn't able to step away from my child very often because of her health issues. So for that, it was pretty good. But I didn't have any expectation that they were going to have to care for my chronically ill child at all. When you hold those kind of expectations and you join these churches, you're going to be very quickly disabused, and maybe not even in the nicest way. Okay, you guys, I am going to go. I got to paint again. I was disgusted to learn I got to put a second coat on. I might as well get it over with. Just get the damn thing over with so that I can breathe in, breathe out, move on, do something else. I'm not looking forward to wearing the respirator mask, but I am looking forward to getting this out of the way. Getting this out of the way in a hurry. Okay, you guys, love you. Have a wonderful day. And one before I forget, we had a incident this morning. We drove out to get a few things at the grocery store, and our little village here is having a giant festival of horses and cattle. Caballos are having bull riding, it looked like. Bullfighting, not bull riding. They're having hundreds of horses down there in the town square. And I had the best time ever just taking pictures. I'm going to upload a lot of them to my Twitter in a bit, because I got a big kick out of this. Since COVID has happened, we've not had bullfighting, bull riding. We've not had people all converging their caballos, and everybody is so dolled up with their little cowboy hats and everything. Guanacaste is a largely rural area, and there is a lot of people with horses here. I love horses. So this was a real treat this morning, getting to see everybody in their horses and how beautiful that it all was. Okay, I'm really going to go now. Okay, y'all have a great day.